Ceyx, deeply affected by his brother's mysterious fate and the subsequent events, decided to seek guidance from the Oracle of Apollo at Claros. However, the Oracle of Delphi, the usual venue for such consultations, was inaccessible due to the hostile presence of King Phorbas and his people. Ceyx initially confided in his wife, Halcyone. However, upon hearing his plan, Halcyone grew pale and fearful. Tears streamed down her face as she attempted to speak. 3 times she opened her mouth, only to be overcome by sobs. "What has changed your mind, my love?" she finally cried out. "Where is the concern you once had for me? Can you truly depart without worry, knowing I'll be left behind?" She questioned his decision to embark on a long journey, doubting if his affection for her remained strong in their separation. "Perhaps you believe it's a safe journey by land," she continued, "and that I'll only be concerned, not frightened. But the thought of the sea and storms fills me with terror." She recounted witnessing shipwrecks on the shore and reading inscriptions on the tombs of those lost at sea. "Don't be deceived into thinking that your father-in-law, Aeolus, can protect you," she pleaded. "While he may command the winds, once they are unleashed, nothing can restrain them. They rage across lands and seas, even daring to challenge the heavens with their fury." Halcyone spoke from experience, having witnessed the power of the winds at her father's home. The more she understood about them, the greater her fear became. "But if you refuse to reconsider," she conceded, "and are determined to proceed, then take me with you. At least we will confront the storm together. Whatever may come, I will fear nothing more than the present moment. We will endure it together, traversing the vast seas." Ceyx was deeply moved by Halcyone's tears and pleas. He still loved her dearly. However, he remained determined to proceed with his journey and did not want to expose her to danger. Despite his efforts to comfort her with reassuring words, she remained unconvinced. Finally, Ceyx proposed a compromise. "Although any delay will be frustrating, I swear by the fire of my father, the morning star, that if fate allows my return, I will be back before the moon completes its cycle twice." With the promise of a swift return, Ceyx ordered his ship to be prepared for the voyage. The sight of the ship filled Halcyone with dread. Tears streamed down her face as she bid farewell to Ceyx. Overwhelmed with sorrow, she could only manage a whispered farewell before collapsing to the ground. As Ceyx lingered, searching for excuses to postpone the journey, the crew readied the ship. With tearful eyes, Halcyone watched as the ship sailed away, seeing Ceyx waving from the stern until he and the land faded from view. Even after the sails vanished into the distance, she continued to gaze at the spot where they had last been. Returning to their empty bed, she felt heartbroken and alone. Meanwhile, the ship had departed from the harbor. The wind filled the sails, and the sailors worked diligently. They were already far from both shores when disaster struck. As night fell, the sea became turbulent. The east wind howled with increasing intensity, whipping the waves into a frenzy. The captain ordered the crew to take action, lower the sails, and secure the ship. However, the storm's fury made it challenging to follow his commands, as the roaring sea drowned out his voice. The sailors scrambled to obey, some pulling in the oars, others tying down the sides of the ship, and some attempting to furl the sails. One sailor pumped out the seawater seeping into the ship, while another removed the yards from the mast. Chaos reigned as the storm raged. The terrified captain admitted he was powerless against the fury of the weather. The shouts of the crew, the rattling of the rigging, the crashing waves, and the booming thunder all merged into a terrifying symphony. The sea churned violently, reaching for the heavens and spraying the clouds with foam. The waves transitioned from yellow to black, then to white with froth. The ship became a plaything of the storm, tossed high one moment and plunged into the depths the next. The crashing waves against the hull sounded like the blows of a battering ram. The storm raged like a fierce lion, charging at the ship with unstoppable force. The waves, whipped by the wind, rose above the rigging, threatening to engulf the entire vessel. The storm intensified. Lightning bolts struck the ship, tearing open the seams and allowing seawater to flood the vessel. Rain poured down in sheets, blurring the line between the sky and the sea. The sails were soaked, and the waves seemed to merge with the heavens. Darkness descended, broken only by flashes of lightning that illuminated the raging sea. The waves relentlessly pounded the ship, each one more violent than the last. Finally, a monstrous 10th wave, like a triumphant warrior, breached the ship's defenses and flooded the deck. Panic seized the crew. It resembled a city under siege, with waves assaulting from outside and water already flooding the interior. All hope appeared lost. Sailors faced death in its myriad forms, as plentiful as the crashing waves. Some wept, while others became numb with fear. Some envied those destined for proper burials, while others beseeched the gods, their pleas swallowed by the storm. Memories of loved ones flooded their minds, brothers, parents, homes, and families left behind. Amidst the chaos, Ceyx could only think of Halcyon. He regretted their parting, but was also relieved she wasn't there to witness the horror. He yearned for one last glimpse of his homeland, but the storm had obscured everything. The hurricane raged on. The mast snapped under the storm's force, and the helm shattered. A solitary, monstrous wave surged like a conqueror before crashing upon the ship with the might of a mountain tossed into the sea. The vessel stood no chance against such power and succumbed beneath the waves. Many of the crew perished, pulled into the depths by the merciless sea. Others clung desperately to fragments of wreckage. Ceyx himself seized a piece of the shattered ship, the same hand that once grasped his royal scepter. He called out to his father, Aeolus, and his father-in-law, the god of winds, Aeolus, but his pleas were drowned by the storm's roar. Yet, even as he clung to the wreckage, Halcyon never left his thoughts. He uttered her name, praying the waves would carry his body to her shore, where she could grant him a proper burial. Whenever a wave granted him a moment to breathe, he called out to her, whispering her name into the turbulent water. Then a massive wave rose before him, engulfing him entirely. The light of the morning star, Lucifer, his father, was obscured that night. He couldn't even bear to witness the tragedy, concealing his face behind thick clouds. Unaware of the dreadful fate that had befallen Ceyx, Halcyon eagerly awaited his return. She busily prepared clothes for him and dreamed of their reunion. Piously, she offered incense to all the gods, particularly Hera. She prayed fervently for Ceyx's safety, his swift return, and his enduring love for her. However, only one of her wishes would be granted. The gods could not tolerate her prayers for a deceased man. Determined to put an end to Halcyon's pleas, Hera decided to convey a message. She summoned Iris, the rainbow goddess, her most trusted messenger. Iris, Hera commanded, hasten to the drowsy court of sleep. Instruct him to send a vision of Ceyx, but not as a healthy man. Let the vision depict Ceyx, dead from a shipwreck, and reveal the truth of Halcyon's misfortune. Iris, adorned in her resplendent hues, arched across the sky and reached the hidden cave where Sleep resided. Among his many sons, Sleep, the father, selected Morpheus, the most adept and versatile mimic of human form. No other could replicate a person's gait, countenance, speech, and attire as skillfully as Morpheus. He could even mimic the speech patterns of individuals. However, Morpheus was limited to impersonating humans. Another son, Icelos, known as Phobator to mortals, could transform into wild beasts, birds, or serpents. Yet another son, Phantassos, mastered the art of transforming into earth, stone, water, trees, and all lifeless forms. These sons appeared at night to kings, generals, commoners, and everyone in between. Sleep, the ancient god, overlooked his other sons and selected Morpheus to fulfill Iris's task, the daughter of Thomas. With that, Sleep drifted back into slumber, his head drooping and his body sinking onto his opulent couch. Morpheus swiftly traversed the skies on his invisible wings and arrived in the city of Haemonia in a blink. There, he shed his wings and assumed the guise of Ceyx. Pallid and lifeless, devoid of clothing, he stood before the bed of his grieving wife. Seawater appeared to drip from his beard, and his hair was tangled and drenched. Leaning against the bed, tears streaming down his face, he addressed Halcyon. "My beloved wife, do you not recognize me, your Ceyx? Or has death so altered my appearance? Look closely, and you will surely recognize me. Instead of your husband, you now behold his spirit. Your prayers, Halcyon, were futile. I am deceased. Do not be deceived by promises of my return. The fierce south wind seized my vessel in the Aegean Sea and dashed it against the rocks. The waves swallowed my cries as I called out your name in vain. This is no fabrication. You are not hearing hearsay. I myself, shipwrecked, stand before you to relay my fate. Awaken, weep for me, lament my passing, and do not allow me to depart for the underworld unmourned." Morpheus's voice flawlessly imitated Ceyx's, and genuine tears seemed to flow from his eyes. His mannerisms mirrored those of Ceyx. Halcyone wept and moaned in her slumber. Reaching out to embrace him, she found only empty space. "Wait, where are you going?" she exclaimed. "Let us depart together." Halcyone's own voice and the apparition of her husband jolted her awake. She scanned the room for him, searching for the figure she had just witnessed. Servants, roused by her cries, hurried in with lanterns. Finding him absent, Halcyone struck her face with her hands, tore at her garments, and beat her chest. She didn't bother to loosen her hair, instead ripping at it as she addressed her nurse, who entered to inquire about the disturbance. "Halcyone is gone," she wailed. "She is deceased along with her Ceyx. No solace can alleviate this agony. He perished in a shipwreck. I beheld him. I recognized him. As he departed, I reached out to detain him, but he vanished. The specter was tangible, there is no doubt. He appeared altered, not as he usually was, and his countenance lacked its former cheer. But I saw him, pallid and unclothed with dripping locks. Oh, ill-fated man! He stood right here." She scanned for any traces he might have left behind. "This is what I feared in my nightmares," she continued. "I implored you not to depart and heed the winds. But if you had to leave and meet your demise, I wish I had accompanied you. It would have been better to be by your side. Then, at least, we would have shared our lives, and even in death, we wouldn't have been parted. Now, I am alone, adrift without you. The sea embraces you, but not me." Alcyone, shattered by grief, professes her enduring love and her desire to reunite with Ceyx in death. With the break of dawn, Alcyone hastens to the shoreline, the very place where she last glimpsed Ceyx alive. Recalling their farewell, she scans the waters and discerns a distant figure resembling a body riding the waves. Initially uncertain, she soon realizes it's a lifeless form as the tide carries it nearer. Though unfamiliar at first, she pities the unfortunate soul and mourns. As the currents draw the body closer, Alcyone identifies it as her beloved husband, Ceyx. Overwhelmed, she rends her face, hair, and garments. With trembling hands outstretched, she cries, "Is this how you return to me, my beloved husband? Is this your fate?" A man-made jetty extends into the turbulent waters, attenuating the sea's wrath. Miraculously, Alcyone leaps onto it. With newfound wings, she takes flight, a grieving bird skimming the water's surface. Her lamentations now issue from a beak, her voice forever altered. Landing beside the lifeless body, she enfolds Ceyx with her wings, bestowing upon him cold kisses from her hardened beak. Onlookers witness the scene, uncertain whether Ceyx acknowledges his wife or if the waves merely sway his head. In truth, he does feel her caress. At last, the gods take pity, transfiguring both Alcyone and Ceyx into birds. Even in avian form, their love endures. They pair and rear offspring. During the serene winter days, for 7 days, Alcyone lays her eggs on a nest adrift upon the sea. This interval is dubbed the Halcyon Days, a span marked by safe passage on the ocean. Aeolus, the god of the winds, restrains their fury, ensuring tranquil seas for his progeny.